Welcome to the Future of Payroll and Workforce Management Insights by HR.com, your go-to resource for insights into payroll and workforce management. From navigating compliance and technology trends to exploring the latest in global payroll solutions, we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Join us as we dive into the forces reshaping payroll and share practical strategies to optimize your workforce management. Let's get started. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this, the latest episode of Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, a podcast here at HR.com, where I am your host. My name is Brent Skinner, and my guest today is Antoine Boquen, who is co-founder and CEO of Remote People. Welcome, Antoine.
Thanks, Brent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to our topic. Just to give our audience sort of a taste of it. The future of work is borderless, not remote. I think we might keep that working title for this. And we're going to talk about the future of work a lot today and sort of the intersection between that and employers of record and lots of other things. But first, as I like to ask all of my guests on this podcast, there's a lot of passion in this space, the world of work. And I find that a lot of my guests really have, real sort of mission behind what they're doing. And I'd love to hear what yours is, Antoine. What gets you up and going every morning when it comes to the world of work?
So just to quickly introduce myself, so I'm working for a remote organization that is based in New York. And so our core focus is to actually help people finding jobs all around the world. So not only in the US, but in Canada, Mexico, Europe, Asia, every country. So what keep us going is to see like the movement that is happening in the space. It's a very, very interesting industry, especially right now. Maybe one of the best time to be alive in the HR space with the transition that is happening right now from the previous era of working to now like the new AI driven era of working. So what is driving us is this change of way of working and how we can help all the businesses from around the world to adapt to that and make them successful. So I think our role is pretty important. And so we carry this mission that is really maybe one of the most fundamental aspects for everybody in the world.
Yeah. And the EOR space is so interesting, and there's so many permutations of it right now. It's, it came into being for a certain reason, and there's been a lot of sort of evolution of what it means to be an EOR and all sorts of other things. We're going to get into that. Just to share with our audience sort of just a little bit snippet of the abstract we have for this. What happens when AI, remote work, and global talent converge? We're going to explore a future of work that looks dramatically different from today's employment model and how that sort of intersects with EOR and global talent, war for talent, if you will. I guess my first question for you, Antoine, is this. You've suggested that the future of work is increasingly about outputs rather than hours. How does that change the way organizations think about employment, performance, and compensation?
So I think this change has already happened. It started with this COVID-19 pandemic. So that's where we started to see that first. At that time, organization realized that you no longer, see the people you work with on a daily basis because everybody's working from home. And then you start to have in your organization people working in different cities and even different countries. So you adjust to a work where you work on the same time zone, but you do not see each other like 8 to 10 hours a day. Therefore, the way you manage people is changing because previously, I've met a lot of entrepreneurs in France who are saying like, hey, I need to see the people. I need to make sure like they're productive. And how do I see that? By seeing like what time they arrive, how many calls they do per day, how late they stay in the evening. And so that has changed already with the pandemic. And all organizations have learned to work, in a remote way. And therefore, like, you can no longer manage the performance of people by the number of hours that you put, but more as a result. And
Mm,
then it accelerated with AI. AI is the second change, because right now um, you can go beyond basically like what you could do before. If you look at an engineer previously was limited by the amount of time that he's still coding. So you could say like, hey, I need for you like 12 hours of coding output, and you could count it like that. But right now it's different, because an engineer can orchestrate different AI agents and do 100 times what he used to do. So therefore,
mm,
it's not about like how many hours he works. It's about like what output he can get out of his work.
mm,
And that's the same for a salesperson. Previously, a salesperson was limited by the number of calls he could make a day in order to reach out to a company and to find new business to expand like worldwide. Right now, you can use AI also to source companies, to arrange your meetings, to prepare everything, to do the research, and therefore you're more productive. So what you see is that some people are taking advantage of that, and they go to the organization and they say, look, I can do the job of 5 people. Why should I get
mm,
paid the same as the 5 others? I can actually do this output. So I don't want to be paid, for a monthly contract. I want to be paid like based on the outputs and like what I provide, the value basically that I provide to this organization. And that makes sense. And so
mm,
companies are taking advantage of that, because when you look on the company side now, of course, you can save money by having less people, but that's not like the primary driver. Like what's interesting actually is to have the best people and to have an organization that is lean, because it's all about the time that you spend with the people you work with. The biggest issue that we see when organizations are growing is that you become too big and you don't know the people you work with. You end up having like 1,000, 2,000 people, 10,000 people, and then you don't
mm,
know the people. What organizations are looking for is like very lean team. It's better to work with one person where you can invest a lot of time together and really get to know this person, work super closely, rather than 5. And it's always better actually to work with people that you know rather than a person that you meet just once a year. So
mm,
when you kind of pay based on the outputs, then it's actually, move the work to the best people, and it reduces like the number of people you interact with. And that's actually better for even the manager.
mm. Yeah, it's super interesting. And one thing that one thing that stood out for me in what you said, it's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's super interesting, is it's an amplification of this idea that labor is the the value of labor is determined by the market as opposed to how much time someone puts into their labor, right? So we don't pay people for how much time they put into something necessarily, but according to what they produce and what value it is, and determined by the market. So this is almost like an amplification of that, or an acceleration of that idea. That's an idea I wanted to throw in there as well. Um, but you're absolutely right. So, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about what the implications for that, or what sort of the sort of like the terminus of that might be, right? But before we do, um, AI is, because of this, right? There's some elimination of some entry level roles, right? That AI is kind of coming in and making it was changing our concept of what it means to enter in at the ground floor in an organization, right? Um, do you, I guess I have two questions. We have a sort of, we have is creating opportunities for AI native talent. What skills and mindsets do you believe will be most valuable in the workforce of the future? But I guess also my question is, um, how does this change? Will there be new entry level positions for humans in the future of a similarly entry level, or are we looking at sort of an elevation of what the entry level is? Will the entry level be at just a higher level? Will be the entry than it is now? If that makes any sense.
So I think there will be, we have those discussions with a lot of organizations in the world, in particular, for example, law firms. If you have like this generation, like, to become a partner in a law firm, you need to start somewhere. If you start to miss an entire generation, you won't get like the future partners, in 10 years or 15 years. So you have to hire entry level people anyway. Otherwise, what's going to happen is like there will be, how to say, a big issue 10 years like later, right?
Mm.
You can use the
Succession
example.
planning issue. Yeah.
Yes, it's the same. Like you can use the example of the one child policy in China that happened before. So China released this policy, and then it was too late because now it creates an issue like for the country because you don't have this new generation taking over like the previous one. So AI is bringing the same kind of issue for the workforce. Organizations, and I would say more like industries. Industries need to keep hiring entry level people in order to plan the future, and you cannot just now like work with senior, otherwise the entire industry is going to suffer and there will be an issue there. So that's the answer to this question. So we see people now thinking like that they still need, to have those entry level, and there will be organization actually hiring those people in order to train the talents of the future. Now, what it means in terms of skills and qualities, yes, that's completely different from before because you do not hire now entry level roles to do what AI can do, but you
Mm.
need those roles to learn, how to be this architect of AI agents. You need people, basically, the people that we hire now at entry level position should be complementing AI and working with
Mm.
AI rather than trying to compete with it. So social skills are very important because we still make decisions based on trust. Even though I can be the best, I can have the best product in the world. If you do not trust me, you will not buy it. It can be a product or a solution. So social skills is something that is extremely important even at entry level roles. You need to have to work on that basically and train yourself to complement AI. As long as businesses are owned by people, people are going to make the decision. They're going to be advised by AI, but eventually, the same as the president of a country will always have the final say on what to do. So he's making a decision based on the trust, the advice, all those parameters. So this social skill is very important. And
Mm.
then the other types of skill that are important is it's not like a deep expertise into just one domain knowledge because
Mm.
that's no longer relevant. The amount of information that you can remember is not what makes a difference. It's more the reasoning. Uh, how do you think? How can you analyze, complex problems that has like a lot of parameters and make the best, like decision out of that. So that's very critical. So the reasoning is very, very important at entry level. How you face basically any type of problem, and you need to have this flexibility. You the best interviews always to show like different set of problems that are from completely different domain expertise, but you should be able to address them in the most logic way to show that you're basically smart enough, to work with AI actually, because AI will give you plenty of information, even too much. So you need to be able to select what is relevant, what is not, and drive it, in the right way. So
Mm.
that's another type of skills that is very important. If you can combine those two, you will have great employment opportunities because you can work, with this entire like architecture of agents, and at the same time you can complement those agents with your social skills to connect with other people, to bring talents to your own team. The strongest talents, attracts other talents. That's how it works. So the best organizations are the one who have like the top talents because you will recruit after that the best engineers. So that's why this social aspect is key.
Mm. That's really, really interesting. So these the folks who will get hired for those entry level positions of the future, which is fast approaching, right, are going to have these two sets of skills, I think is what I'm hearing, right?
Yes.
And so maybe educational institutions should start really thinking about teaching these skills. I guess I have a question. It's an offshoot of this. Do you think that with folks entering the job market with these skills, right? Do you think that the new entry level jobs for them or roles for them will sort of organically develop? They'll become readily apparent to us, or will we have to maybe, with some intentionality, contrive some of these roles for them?
So I think it's already happening. So there are a minority of organizations that understand that you need those kind of roles, and it will come like it will become mainstream. Basically, I believe that every industry is impacted by AI, and that's the beauty of the technology. It's the same as the internet, the rise of internet like 25 years ago. If you would say like, hey, my business is great, I will never have a website, I don't need it, I don't need any email, all of that, you would die. So every organization is going to shift to AI, whether you're producing a good, a service, you're working on a solution, like you're doing events, it has to be driven by AI. So there will be more roles opening in all those organizations. And the beauty of it is that the people whose experience are at the same level as the entry level people, right? Because you may have been like, a chief operating officer for 30 years in the company. Your experience is no longer relevant in the world of AI. So therefore, you compete with entry level people that are also very smart, that do not need basically your experience because it's a totally different playground now. And
Mm.
so that gives a lot of opportunities to young people, to get those positions. And that's what we see. We actually see it because we do employ thousands of people in 150 countries. And we see that there's a trend right now, like for more junior people, actually, because it's reshuffled the market.
Mm.
In every type of departments, whether it's finance or engineering or operations or sales, a lot of young people that are actually more used to the technology, like, that are less pretentious in a way because they don't know, so they have to use AI, while the people who used to do the same thing for 15 years will say like, hey, I've always done that. I'm going to continue to do that. I'm not going to change. Then those guys are not getting the best jobs. They still find
Yeah.
jobs, but the best jobs are for people who are able to embrace new technologies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's It's absolutely essential. It's become imperative for folks. You've had a couple of provocative ideas that you've shared with some of my colleagues here at HR.com, and I want to delve into one of them, and that is this idea that people may eventually hold full-time employment status while contributing to multiple companies simultaneously. Um, how realistic is that vision? I can see it. It seems interesting and hypothetically possible, but what would need to change for it to become mainstream? Are there, I guess, maybe regulatory impediments, this sort of stuff?
So basically, this concept is coming from the freelancing world, where a lot of people are looking for freedom to work different jobs at the same time. Maybe
Mm.
you want to build a website while at the same time working for an event company, while at the same time like doing a podcast, and you want to get paid free, and you do not want to commit for one job. So this idea was like, hey, why do people have to only select one job at a time? Cannot do more? Because right now, as we just said before, it's not about the amount of hours, it's about the output. So if I'm a salesperson and I can hit my target, it doesn't matter if I do that in 20 hours or 100 hours. As long as I hit my target, I get paid for it and I'm happy. And I can do some other things. So because of the disruption of AI, we are like now no longer, dependent on the number of hours that we work. People are also even talking about like 4 days work week, 3 days work week, like changing all of that. So what's going to
Mm.
happen is that people, especially entry level people, when they will start their career, instead of losing, like 3 years doing one job and realizing that they don't like it, I
Mm.
believe the next generation is going to say, hey, dad, like I've applied to 3 companies and I got 3 jobs. And I'm going to do like about like 2 days a week, with this one, 2 days a week with that one, another
Mm.
like 1.5 day with that company. Why do you do that? Because you get more exposure. You can see actually what you like. So instead of doing an internship for 6 months, you can do like many different things. And before, like the issue for the company is like they used to pay per hour or per month. So it was not possible. But now that companies no longer hire people for the number of hours, but for the output. So I
Mm.
hire salespeople, that's what I'm expecting. I hire an engineer, that's what I'm expecting out of the person. Then people will have the freedom to do that. And that model exists right now. It's called freelancing, contractors.
Mm.
So we do that. We pay thousands of people who are doing that. The problem of this is that a contractor is basically a person that does not have a full-time job and that only gets money, from different organizations. And they need to take care of themselves by themselves, of their tax declaration, all of that. That works very fine in very developed countries like Western Europe or the US. But now think about people who are doing these freelancing jobs in Brazil, in Vietnam, in South Africa. when they want to go to the US, or when they want to get a mortgage, they want to buy a car, they want to buy a house, their banks or the immigration will say, what do you do? Then you say, oh, I have no contracts. Actually, I get like some payments, based on variables on different things. So they don't allow you to travel. You don't have the same rights. So we are lucky because we come from countries where your nationality is enough to let you do what you want. But in most of the countries in the world, and I mean like 90% of them, including a country like China, which is the second largest economy in the world, people cannot travel or cannot have access to the same financial products without having this full-time job. So what are
Mm,
they doing in those countries? They reach out to us and they say, hey, remote people, you guys have a company in every country in the world. You already employ freelancers and full-time employees. What I want to do is I want to have a full-time contract with you and invoice different companies. So for instance, I can work with 3 organizations. All of them pay me like $5,000 per month. But what I want is to combine 5 plus 5 plus 5, $15,000 into one full-time employment in Brazil. Now, the entire social security is covered. You have like also unemployment benefits. You will have retirement like contribution. You can now travel around the world because you have a full-time job. You have access to all of that. And so we see this trend. It started to appear like 18 months ago and
mm,
in all those countries in the world. Now the question is like, will it stay like a minority or will more and more people want that? I believe, because we just spoke about those entry-level positions, that the next generation will ask for that. A lot of people
yeah,
will not want to be dependent, on one position just to get fired and to be like unemployed for a couple of months. People will try to maximize their opportunities, especially right now because you see the layoff and say like, look, if I can get 3 jobs at the same time, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to be smart
diversification.
enough. Yes,
Yeah,
don't put
yeah.
your eggs, on the same baskets. Like, why would you? I believe they will even joke about that, of the previous generation. They say, look at our parents. They were only
Yeah,
doing a job at a time for 5, 7 years. Then they get fired. Then they are not employed. And they will joke about that. And so that's a
mm,
concept, that we see happening. It's a minority. Again, it's mainly in developing countries, but it makes sense.
yeah.
So
Sorry to interrupt, but I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, no, if it's happening right now, then that seems to me that that's definitely something that's going to grow and become more prevalent. And I wonder what it will how it will affect compensation structures and this sort of thing eventually. Do you think folks will be paid 3 6-figure salaries, or are you looking at or is it going to drive down pay? What do you think that might happen there?
I think governments will start like to develop a new way of working. So it's no longer like you have to create your own company or like you have to work for someone, but you should have this middle model. And that's kind of where EOR, employer of records organizations, might like go toward to become, those national structure that can employ anybody without like any risk, but just to give people this flexibility. And what people are going to do is like, they're just going to declare for now, what they do is a minimum base. So you say,
Mm,
look, based on my savings, you can tie basically your saving accounts to your employment. So you have always enough to maintain like a minimum amount of income, and all what comes on top is a bonus. And in most of the countries, it works. That's something actually that we've already solved. You can say my base salary is $5,000 a month, and then add whatever you want, and you can do that per month or every 6 months or per year, depending on the tax system, in the country. In some countries, it's more advantageous to get like one big bonus per year because you get
mm,
like different taxation brackets. Great. Then you follow like the country regulation for that. So people are really like following kind of their home country regulations for this. And they just put the minimum and that's enough. And so it's just for them, to manage their income, the same as you would do if you're a company. If you're a company, you always need to have a minimum, like to pay your team. So it's the same
mm,
as having a one-person company.
mm. It's interesting. In the few minutes we have left, I'd love to hear some parting thoughts from you, but just to put one more idea out there, um, this is this is even greater complexity in terms of employing people. It sounds like to me, and sort of the genesis or the origin of the EOR concept was to help organizations navigate or effectively um, uh, navigate compliance in new regions to them. That was the complexity at the time, and that complexity still exists. But now we have this growing these additional dimensions of complexity when it comes to employing people in terms of work from anywhere, in terms of what status of employee they are versus contractor or freelancer or whatever. And I guess maybe this is just an observation. It just seems like the EOR concept is as relevant and needed as ever, because you not only have that need for globalization, which was the origins of the EOR concept, but so much more now in terms of dimensions of how people are employed and how they're working.
It has to evolve, and we are evolving, like with the current like environment of AI. So AI is driving changes of employment that obviously are impacting EORs, but not in the way of companies just laying off people and people being unemployed. That's not what we see. Every time we see organizations l- l- cutting their workforce, those people do not stay at home to watch TV. Those people are actually taking advantage of being free now to do something. And most likely most of the time they try now to compete with their previous companies.
Mm,
So before, why people had to find a job was because you need like a lot of skills in order to create a company. But right now, you can just have one skill and you can complement yourself. For example, you can build a website with AI. You can handle all your marketing with AI. You can do your finance with AI. So you no longer need to recruit tons of people in order to start this business. So once you just find like what you like to do, you can kind of start your own solution, and
mm,
sell it. So what we see as an EOR is like we will have a phase of large organization becoming like more lean, but
mm,
at the same time, another trend will be like smaller organizations rising and a lot of one people company, a lot of
mm,
10 people companies, and those companies will make millions of dollars. And we see this happening already in the roles that we pay. So as I said, like not most of them, but like a big majority now of the organizations we work with are starting to pay people based on the output. So we see very, very large salaries coming now. There's
yeah,
big variables, paid to people, not because they work more hours, just because they are more productive and they deliver more for the organization. So if your company is successful, you will earn a lot of money, and you will see now like more $1 million salaries, happening in the world because of this trend. And so
yeah,
once people realize that, they will want even to create their own company. They will say, why do I work with the other 9 people? I can also do it myself. And so it's going to drive a lot of competition, innovation. And people also like to do that anywhere they want in the world. That's the beauty. We see a lot of people, from the US who actually want to live in Mexico
mm.
and work from there. And so that's what we do. So people don't really care about the borders anymore. And that's the interesting part. People think first about themselves, their lifestyle, and then what do they want to work on? And that's actually what creates the success.
We're back to the title of this podcast, which is it's not remote. It's borderless.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating stuff, and we could talk about it for a long time. We have reached the end of this podcast episode. However, Antoine, I'd love to thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. This has been a really, really illuminating conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Workforce Management and Payroll Insights by HR.com. We hope today's episode brought you valuable insights and fresh perspectives on the future of payroll and workforce management. Be sure to check out more episodes and explore resources at HR.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep innovating and making a difference in the world of payroll and workforce management.